start here. So we've seen this spreadsheet before, right? You should remember this. We have Green Valley Medical Center. They're going to invest in a PET scan. They have their initial investment as $5.8 million. They expect to get $1,700 per scan of reimbursement. They thought they have a grant for research scans, and they know that they will be paid for 700 scans for research. They want to try to also do patient scans, and they are assuming they might be able to do 1,600 of those patient scans, but they don't know if they're going to be reimbursed because it's still experimental at this time. So the CFO has said, well, let's assume that maybe we will be reimbursed for 50% of those. And that's where you see this 50% number here. And as you recall, we projected out 10 years of cash flow. We did a discounted cash flow and created our NPV. So now looking at our NPVs, we have at 6%, our NPV is 456,000, right? So that's pretty good. That's definitely above zero. We want to go forward with this investment. We love it. But if we go to the discount rate of 8%, we end up with a negative NPV, negative 96,000. And if you go to 10% discount rate, we're at 577,000 negative. So all of a sudden it feels a little more iffy, right? I want to know more information. How sure are we that these assumptions are really correct? And we know the CFO said, just assume we'll collect 50%. What if it's not 50%? What if we collect 20%? Or what if we collect 70%? What does that look like? And so a scenario analysis lets us start asking those types of questions. We're going to do sensitivity first. Sensitivity also lets us ask those kind of questions in a more discrete way. So what the sensitivity analysis does is it says, if everything being exactly the same, we're going to take one variable and we're going to adjust that variable. So in this case, we're going to hold all the input variables constant, except that we're going to change the percent of reimbursement, right? So what does this look like? Sure, we've assumed a 50% reimbursement, but what does it look like if we're only reimbursed 30%? Or what does it look like if we're reimbursed 70%? So sensitivity analysis allows us to be able to vary that and see the results. So let's look. And in this case, we're going to look at how it affects the NPV. So I'm going to stop sharing this and pull up an Excel document. Let me say that. Okay, so let's pull this up and take a look. So this is the same spreadsheet. You've seen this before, right? We're on sensitivity analysis. So here are all of our assumptions. And I will say this only works if you have used your assumptions to calculate your income statement here, right? If you have hard-coded these numbers, it will not work. For example, here on the patient revenue, you can see that 1360 is really taking the projected reimbursement times the volume times the percentage of reimbursement. And the reason that's important, what we're going to do in the sensitivity analysis is we're going to tell Excel, recalculate this, but instead of this 50%, start putting in new numbers. What does it look like at 10%, 20%, 30%? And that only works if Excel can then put that inside of here. Okay, so let's look at that. If you wanted to do this by hand, you could. So you could calculate 10, you could put your 10%, 20% all across the top, create your, like mini income statement for each of those percentiles, and then do a discounted cash flow. You see here's like for 10%, you could do your discounted cash flow and then calculate your NPV. Right? And so then you could pull it up here on a table and see it. It's a lot of work. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Maybe the only reason you would want to do that is sometimes when you're first starting to do some of these, use these new tools, you don't have a lot of the intuition. And it might help to do it by hand like this so you can see what's happening. You can also look at this Excel spreadsheet, which you have a copy of, and I will upload again tonight. and you can see, what's happening at the 10% level, the 20% level. And the reason that's useful is because as you start using more advanced Excel tools, sometimes you won't recognize if your numbers are off if you don't have a good sense of what should be happening. So it can be useful for that, but I will say, for the most part, let's use the easy way. And Excel has a lot of easy ways. So what we want to do is kind of recreate this, but an easy, excuse me, but an easy way in Excel. So let's do that. Let's start by just creating a space. So I'm going to copy and paste this 10 to 100%. And the way I'm going to do that is I click on the 10%. I'm just going to drag straight over to 100. Control C or Command C if you're on Mac like I am, and then Command V for paste, right? So we just copy and pasted that. And we know we're gonna keep our volume constant. We have 1,600 scans, so that's there. What we want to put inside here, what we want to be able to see calculate is the NPV. We want to know, based on at 1,600 scans, if we're reimbursed at 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, what does it do to our NPV? So whatever the variable is that you're wanting to see changed, you put it in this top left-hand corner. Again, you just do equal sign, and then you come to your spreadsheet and you find it, right? So we know we calculated our NPV right here. And so we're going to just click on that cell and we hit enter and it'll show up. All right, so now it's really easy to calculate the sensitivity. Highlight these whole two lines, just, and we're going to go up to, I'm going to move this thing just a second. Okay, we're going to go to data. And then this what if analysis right here on kind of the quarter right-hand data table. And then what this does is Excel says, I'll recalculate these numbers for you. Just tell me what the row inputs and column inputs are. And so here our row input is what do we have going across the rows? And that's just our volume, right? The 1,600. So we're going to go to our assumption and we click on that 1,600, right? The volume of patient scans. Make sure you move your cursor down. And now you want, what is your column? Where is it? So our columns, going across our columns, is the percentage of reimbursement. And here it's 50%. So we're going to click on that. And you can see, right? We have our row input, our column input. Let me pull this up so you can see what happens. Sorry, I should probably highlighted this so I could find it. So watch this table when we hit OK. There, it's automatically calculated the sensitivity for you. It's really messy and hard to read, so let's clean it up. So click out of this. Let's just highlight the numbers. And let's change the formatting a bit. So go up here to your home. Let's start by adding our comma. So let's go to number, comma. And it's too many zeros because we don't care about pennies. And then all of a sudden that looks pretty good. Let me just put a marker around this so we can see what we're looking at. And one of the things that you want to do is always do a quick check. So our assumption said 50%, 1,600 volume, that we would have a 456,000 NPV. So we want to go here and look, and that's exactly right. That's what that number was. So we know that our math is working. And we can now look at this pretty quickly and we say, wow, so it did work at 50%, but everything below 50%, if we were reimbursed at 40%, it's negative. So that's not great. The other thing you might want to do with this is be able to put it on a quick little chart so that somebody can see it. So if you want to do that, all you need to do is highlight from this 10% to 100%. You can go to insert, and it has all these little graph pictures for you. You want a line graph. Just the first line is fine. And so it starts to graph it for you. This is really ugly. We got to fix it, but it's pretty easy. click in your chart title. I say be as specific as you can in your chart title because you'll go back and look at the charts and I promise you won't have any clue what they are supposed to be. So we do sensitivity analysis. Theoretically, these should all be spelled correctly. And what we did NPV at 6%, 1600 volume, and then percent reimbursed. Right? And that way you know what you're doing. And you could do that. All right, so that's there. Now let's look at these ugly numbers. Nobody can read that. So click on that. What we want to do here is when you click on it, it'll open this format access panel. We want to go to this number, so which is actually here where you see the column graph. So click on that, and then you'll see these choices. We want to go to number. So click on number and see it's a percentage, but those aren't percentages. Those are just numbers. So we're going to open that up. We're going to go to accounting because accounting will put negative numbers in percentages, which we like. We want 0 decimal places. We don't really need those dollar signs because that's ugly. So let's go to the symbol, none. And I think that's going to look fine. So close that. And then this column, I mean, these labels look bad and they're wrong. So instead of just naming our data points 1 to 10, I want those values to be there. So click on that and then double click and it'll pull up your window here. You actually want to hit select data. Oh, that's not going to work. Let me move the graph out of the way. Okay, let's do it again. So let's click here, double click, select data. And then when you do that, you have this ability to add the horizontal axis labels. So this, if you click on this little picture, it'll let you go back to your spreadsheet and you can select exactly what you want your labels to be. So let's click on that. And we want them to be this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100. And then just hit enter. And it says, is that really what you want? This page, those cells? Yep, it's really what we want. So, okay. And there it goes. So now I'm going to get rid of these. It's just a way to show pretty quickly that at 50%, a little before 50%, you are, or right at 50%, you break into the positive NPV. But anything less than 50%, you're going to be negative. And so it's sometimes helpful. You can change the colors of all of these lines. Works just like you would expect. So that's sensitivity analysis, which is great. However, what we might say is, okay, so this is fine. We know we have to have 50% reimbursement, but what if the volume is not 1600? What if it's less than that? What does that look like? Or what if it's more than that? What does it look like? And when we want to ask questions about two variables, we can't use sensitivity analysis, but need to use scenario analysis. So let me show you, it's almost exactly the same. So once you understand one of these, you understand the next. So let's go and look. Get rid of this. So here, same exact spreadsheet. What we did here is we said, well, what if we had 10% to 100% reimbursement? But now we want to look at the volume of those patient scans from 500 to 1700. What is, what would that look like? So I'm going to walk you through how to read this, and then I'll show you how to make it. And it should be pretty easy to read just looking at it, right? So anywhere there's red, you're going to lose money. So at 40%, anywhere from 500 to 1700 scans, you have a negative NPV on this project. If you have 70% reimbursement of those scans, you can get away with being only volume of 1100 scans, you're already positive NPV. So it just lets you play with the variables in a much better way. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, so we've got our empty space here. It's very same thing we did last time. Let's copy this, 10 to 100%, move it to the bottom. So I did Control C, oops, Control V, puts it there. These are our volumes of scans. Let's just do Control C, put it one row down so we have room to put our NPV there. And let's just Control V, it's going to throw that down there. Let's go ahead and pull our labels. So Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. All right, fine. And then here, so whatever number that you want to be recalculated inside of this table, you put here. So we're just going to do equal. We have to go find that NPV again, right? So we're going to go up. And here it is, NPV 6%, 456. And then just hit enter. And so it shows up. And then it's pretty simple. We highlight everything. Make sure you highlight the 456 all the ways 10 to 100% in the whole volume. And remember, we go data, what if analysis, data seek, row input. So what are our rows? Our rows are the volume. So let's go and find that volume. Patient volume, 1600. Our column are the percent reimbursement. So percent of patient scans reimbursed, 50%. And then let me pull this up so you can see it calculated. Okay. And it recalculates it. It's a disaster again from the formatting. So click out of this so we can reformat those numbers. So highlight the body here of all these numbers. Let's go to home. Let's start by, let's start by putting in a comma. Let's get rid of a couple of zeros. So that's starting to look better. But how do we make it this red and green, which is such an easy way to be able to see what's going on? So make sure you have all these numbers highlighted. Let's go back to home. Make sure you're on the home tab. And then right here, a little bit to the right of middle, you've got conditional formatting. Click on conditional formatting, highlight cell rules. It's super easy. You just tell Excel how you want to highlight based on what rules, and it does it automatically. So here we want greater than. Anything, any cell value that's greater than 0, we want it to be green. Okay. And do it again. Highlight cell rules. Anything less than 0, any cell value less than 0, we want to be red. And it automatically does it for you. You can tell I have different colors because I chose my colors, so we could do that. I mean, conditional highlight. Let's do greater than 0. You have these presets, or you can do custom. And I just did custom because I prefer the little muter colors. That's fine. And then make sure you do your check, right? So in our assumptions, we had a 50% reimbursed and we had 1,600 scans. And so that takes us to this 456. And that is what our original NPV was. So you know your numbers are right. So that's a scenario analysis. I think it's a super powerful tool. It's really easy to use, easy to create. It's something you can really use. So I'm going to end this video here, let you guys digest that. This is all that you need for your paper. I'm going to do another video that shows the Monte Carlo analysis, and all that does is it says, well, instead of having to look at just one projection, what if we really want to do what's called stochastic modeling? And we want Excel to calculate 1,000 instances, on a normal distribution. So we take a variable and normally distribute it, tell Excel to calculate it 1,000 times, and then we get a statistical mean. for our NPV with a minimum and a maximum and a standard deviation gives a little bit more certainty around what's actually happening or what could possibly happening in the projections. It's not terrible. It is used sometimes by finance departments, although if a finance department uses it, they probably have a program that calculates it for them. But I still want to show you how to do it in Excel. It's, if you're an Excel nerd, it's kind of a fun thing. So I'm going to end this video and then I'll upload the next one. If you have any questions about this, play with it. The Excel spreadsheet is going to be loaded, so you can go and look in the cells. I definitely encourage you, try to create a sensitivity analysis. Try to create the scenario analysis. Do it once, do it twice. This is definitely something you can do in your, in your day job that will make you look great. So it's worth learning. All right. Thank you.